This part of your notes needs to be continued from the part that we did in class where we were graphing from tables. And on this method, we are going to graph using the X and Y intercepts. So the first thing we want to define the two words and make sure you understand the difference. So for the word X-intercept, intercepting is exactly what you think it is. It's when you cross in front or cross over something. So for the X-intercept in equations, it's where the line crosses the x-axis. It's very hard to get these mixed up because if it says X-intercept, it must mean the x-axis, right? Same letters, so keep them intact together. Right? And when you have an X-intercept, the y value in your ordered pair is always 0 because it sits on that x-axis. Right? The other word is the word Y-intercept, which is the complete opposite of the X-intercept. Right? And this is where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay. And when a line crosses the y-axis, the x value is going to be 0. So these pieces of information and these definitions will help us to go ahead and graph from those two pieces or numbers. All right, so you're going to have to do two different things with this. The first thing you're going to have to do is, from a graph, name the intercepts. And when it says intercepts plural, that means that it's automatically both the x and the y. Okay, so I'm going to take a second and I'm going to draw or sketch a picture of a graph, and I need you to do the same thing on your paper, and then we'll talk about identifying where the x and y intercepts are. So you can see from this line that I have 2 points that it has crossed the x-axis and the y-axis on, and we want to label and identify each one of them appropriately. So from the picture, you can point to it and see that this one that crosses the x-axis would be your X-intercept. The abbreviation would be X-INT. Do not just abbreviate it as X because that could mean something totally different. The one that's on the y-axis would then be your Y-intercept. Now, when a set of directions or a problem asks you to identify the x and the y-intercept, you do have to write them in one of two ways. You can write x-int and then equals the number that it is. And because this x-intercept is on the 3, the x-intercept is 3. The other way that you can write it is through an ordered pair. Every point has an ordered pair, so the point of that dot on the x-axis would be 3, 0. And notice that the 0 is in the place of the y. The same would go for the y-intercept. Use the abbreviation and then tell me what number it's at. It's at -4 on the y-axis, so you can say y-int equals -4, or if you prefer to write the ordered pair, that would be 0, -4. And notice that in the x value spot is where the 0 goes. So pick one of the ways and answer your questions with one version or the other. You can give me both, but don't try to mix the two together. Stick with one or the other. Okay, so I'm going to give you another picture. We're going to do the same thing, just to give you some practice. I will draw the picture first, and then you will be responsible for naming the x and y intercept. All right, so in this one, I'm not going to point to it on the picture. We're just going to go ahead and label it like you would answering a problem. The x-intercept, or x-int, is going to equal -5 because that's where it sits on the x-axis, or if you prefer the ordered pair, it would be -5, 0. Okay, for the y-intercept, it is crossing the y-axis at -3, so y-int equals -3, or if you prefer the ordered pair, it would be 0, -3. So just make sure that whatever way you're answering the questions, that you have answered them carefully and in the correct way. Okay, the last thing you will have to do with this, and this is the part where we have the most work to do, is you have to be able to find the intercepts. So once again, that means both of them, of an equation then sketch the graph using those values. So I'm going to give you an equation, and our first job is going to be to find the x and y intercepts, and once we figure out what they are, then we're going to have to graph them from that information. Right? And we'll do 2 of these together as well. And then you should be in good shape to practice some of them on your own through some of the other problems you've been assigned. So for the first equation, I'm going to give you it's 2x minus 4y equals 12. Okay? And the way we're going to do this is we're going to deal with that 0 number, and we're going to use that 0 number to help us solve for the other number. Right? So here's how this works, and it's pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. It's just a matter of knowing when to put it in which letter spot. Okay? To find the x-intercept of any equation, you're going to let y equal 0 in that equation. So for our equation right now, we want to find the x-intercept, so we want the y to go away. And the way the y goes away is it turns to the number 0. So we have 2x minus 4 times 0 equals 12. Well, 4 times 0 is going to become 0, so essentially it just drops out of the problem. You're left with 2x equals 12. When you solve it, you're going to get the value of your x-intercept. Now it's going to say x equals 6, but we know you can't write x equals 6. You either have to write x dash int equals 6, or at this point it's probably a lot quicker and easier to just write it as your ordered pair. Okay? Your x value is 6. The y value that you plugged in was 0 back up at the beginning. All right, so to do the y-intercept, we're going to do the reverse. We're going to let x equal 0 this time. Same equation, but this time the x turns to 0 and the y stays. So we have 2 times 0 minus 4y equals 12. Again, 2 times 0 turns into 0, so pretty much it goes out of the problem. You have negative 4y equals 12. Solve it by dividing by negative 4, and you get y equals negative 3. Right? Or in other words, the best way to write it would be as the ordered pair, so that would be 0, negative 3. Once you've identified your 2 intercepts, your x-intercept and your y-intercept, you're ready to sketch the picture, because those are the 2 points that you're going to have on your graph. Every graph that you draw will have to have 3 points except for the ones you do by x and y-intercept, because those only require those 2 values. Every other type of graph that you will do with me will have to have 3 or more. Right, so we're going to plot each one of these on this grid. Right, so we want to have positive 6 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There it is. Put your dot. You want negative 3 on the y-axis. And again, this is a sketch. Right? When you go to do this for real on quizzes and tests and in other things in the classroom, you will do them on graph paper so that they're more accurate. But for now, sketching it is okay. So here's the graph of our line for the equation that we were given, and we got that information just by finding the x and y intercepts. So it's a pretty easy way of graphing once you know what to do with it and once you understand how to get the answers you're looking for. So let's try one more together, and then you'll use these notes to help you do some of the other problems that you were assigned earlier in class. All right, so this time I'm giving you y equals negative 3x plus 6. We want to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and then we want to use that information to graph it. Right? So the first thing we're going to go for is the x-intercept. Right? So if I want the x-intercept, the y turns to 0, and I solve it for x. Whatever one you're solving for is the one you're looking for getting. So if you still have an x in your problem, then obviously you're finding the x-intercept. If you have a y in your problem, then you're looking for the y-intercept. So it really depends on what letter you left in the problem. Okay, so for this problem, I have to solve this for x. So this becomes a 2-step equation. It's just the way that the equation is set up that I have to go through these steps. So now I've got negative 6 equals negative 3x. Divide by negative 3 on both sides. And I get my value for x to be 2. And when I write that in ordered pair status, it would be 2, 0. Right? To go find the y-intercept, you're going to have y equals negative 3 times 0 plus 6. Okay, nice thing about this one is the negative 3 times 0 goes away, and there's no work to do. Your answer is immediately present in front of you, y equals 6. So the ordered pair for this one would be 0, 6. Okay, so now we're ready to graph this. And again, you're just going to sketch a picture of it. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy. Okay, so we want a positive 2 on the x-axis, so there's the dot, and then we want a positive 6 on the y-axis. And there's that dot. And then don't forget to connect your 2 points together, and you have just graphed that line by using the x and y intercepts. So use these to help you out in terms of the problems I assigned to you in class, and we'll see if you have any other issues or concerns regarding intercepts.